You've decided on the new YUKA from Mammotion with the sweeping attachment? You must be really excited. But before we can let the robot zoom across the lawn to collect leaves, we need to first assemble the sweeping unit. In today's video, we'll take a step-by-step look at the best way to proceed and what to keep in mind to ensure everything runs smoothly. It's also important to mention that I've already tested both the robot and the sweeping unit extensively in separate videos. If you haven't seen those yet, make sure to check them out, as today's video will focus solely on the assembly and installation of the sweeping unit. You can find the mentioned videos, as usual, on my channel or now in the top right corner of the info card. It's definitely worth it. And with that, let's get started right after the intro. If you haven't done so yet, quickly subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you won't miss any new videos. You'll also find the current prices of the device in the video description below to support my channel. Thank you so much for your support, and now, let's get started. Let's first take a quick look at the contents of the package. Since the Mammotion sweeping unit is an additional module, it comes in a separate box, whether you buy it directly with the robot or later on. There's not much to see from the outside. The box has a large product image and the label, and that's it. Things get a lot more interesting when we look inside the box. Upon opening, we find the parts of the collection basket at the top, a compact quick start guide, and another box with small accessories like screws and a suitable screwdriver. Directly below, securely protected by thick styrofoam, is the core piece, the sweeping unit itself. Once we've taken that out, we find the remaining small parts, the handle, the counterweight, and finally, the battery. That's it. There's nothing more. Now we have everything we need to mount the sweeping unit onto the YUKA and then put it into operation. Now let's take a step-by-step look at the best way to proceed and what to keep in mind. Let's get started. The first part of the setup involves assembling the sweeping unit itself, followed by the YUKA robot. However, these steps can also be done in reverse order. Let's begin by mounting the handle onto the sweeping unit so it can be carried and detached easily later on. For this assembly, we received 2 small Ziploc bags containing Allen screws of different sizes. There are 6 larger screws and 8 smaller ones. For mounting the handle, we need 4 of the larger screws, with 2 serving as spares. Looking at the underside of the handle, we can see a small, protruding cylindrical plastic pin that fits precisely into the recess on top of the sweeping unit. With slight pressure, the handle slides into the recess and is perfectly aligned. For the final securing, we find a small recess in each of the 4 corners where the 4 Allen keys are to be mounted. Conveniently, as mentioned earlier, a screwdriver is provided, but you can also use any standard 2.5mm Allen key. In either case, make sure the screws are only hand-tightened to avoid damaging the threads. Next, we move on to the collection basket. For this, we first need the upper plastic cover with the Mammotion logo on the side, the short metal bracket, the 2 plastic covers, and the 8 smaller screws, with 2 serving as spares again. Step 1 involves mounting the metal bracket, which will later serve as the handle for the collection basket, onto the upper plastic cover. To do this, we hook the metal bracket, as shown, into the pre-made small recess in the plastic cover and hold it in place with our fingers. Then, we need the 2 small plastic caps, which we place on the fixing points of the metal bracket and also hold in place with our fingers. Admittedly, this can be a bit fiddly, as we have to hold the cover in place with one hand so the bracket doesn't slip while fixing the 4 Allen screws into the pre-drilled holes. Again, the included 2.5mm Allen key serves as the tool. Once this is done, the metal handle is securely mounted, and we can move on to the collection net. We start by attaching the collection net, which has a flexible rubber lip along the top edge. As shown, this lip is pressed into the recess of the plastic cover, and thanks to the many small notches inside, it locks into place on its own. This step can also be a bit tricky at first, but once you get the hang of it, the net is fully assembled within seconds. To stabilize the basket, we only need to hook in the second metal bracket, for which there are also flexible recesses around the front. From my experience, it's best to attach the metal bracket to the lower plastic lip first. Then, we hook the bracket into the pre-made recesses at the top of the cover. Only after doing this should we hook the metal bracket into the two side plastic lips, as it's quite difficult to fit the bracket into the small recesses afterward. This step still requires a bit of force, as the collection net is under tension due to the metal bracket. Once the metal bracket is fully hooked in, the two parts of the sweeping unit are fully assembled, allowing us to attach the collection basket to the sweeping unit. There are two plastic hooks positioned on the sides at the back, making it easy to attach the basket. As mentioned earlier, the metal bracket mounted on top serves as a handle. With that, the first part is completely done, and the sweeping unit is fully assembled. Next, we'll focus on the YUKA robot, as it also requires a few steps. Before we start working on the device, the first step is to shut down the robot completely by holding the power button for a few seconds. We'll also need a soft surface, like a blanket, a small Allen screwdriver, and the battery included in the package. Once we have everything ready, we carefully turn the robot upside down. On the back, between the two large drive wheels, there is a battery compartment under a black plastic cover. 6 screws hold this cover in place, and they must all be removed with the screwdriver. After doing this, we can open the cover, revealing the installed battery. Since both the sweeping unit and the robot itself are quite power hungry, the standard battery would drain quickly. To ensure that YUKA still has a decent runtime and covers the intended area when combined with the sweeping unit, we need to increase its capacity. We do this by installing the second battery into the robot. Yes, you heard that right. The battery for the sweeping unit is not inside the unit itself, but is also installed in the robot. As you can see, only the left battery slot is occupied by default, so we will install the second battery in the empty port on the right side. With the Mammotion logo facing the center, we slide the battery into the battery compartment while holding the cables aside with our other hand. The battery itself has 2 connection cables, one for power with a black plug and another for balancing with a white plug. On the robot, there are corresponding connectors in the same color and shape, so the connections cannot be accidentally mismatched. The connection is made with simple plug-in connectors, and a small click lets you know that the contacts are properly connected. Once this is done, we need the screwdriver again, as the battery is still loosely placed in the battery compartment. There's a small Allen screw on each side of the battery, which we tighten to ensure the battery stays securely in place. Before closing the battery compartment, we should check that the white rubber seal around the compartment is clean to prevent dirt or water from entering. After checking, place the battery cover back on and retighten the 6 Allen screws we previously removed. Make sure no cables are pinched during this process. And with that, the second battery is successfully installed. In the next step, we can turn the robot upright again. The only thing left to install is the counterweight. This is necessary because the sweeping unit is positioned at the rear and creates a significant lever effect. To prevent the robot from lifting at the front on small inclines, we need to add weight. On the front of the YUKA, just above the camera, there's a white plastic cover. This is attached to the housing by 2 hooks on the left and right sides. Using a small flathead screwdriver, or better yet, a plastic pry tool to avoid scratching the housing, we slide it under the cover and gently pry the connection open. Once the cover is detached, we can set it aside as it's not needed for the next steps. The counterweight has 3 integrated Allen screws that provide a secure hold. With the recess facing backward, we place the steel helmet on the YUKA and finally secure it with the Allen screwdriver. Now the counterweight is correctly installed and we can attach the sweeping unit. For a secure and firm fit of the sweeping unit, there are 2 plastic fittings on the right and left sides of the robot. Opposite these are corresponding recesses on the sweeping unit itself, which allow it to be attached securely. There are 2 plastic devices on the right and left of the robot to ensure that the sweeping unit sits securely and firmly. Contrasting to this are the respective recesses on the sweeping unit itself through which it is hooked in. The handle on the top provides a secure and central grip to guide it accordingly. This means you attach the unit from the back with a slight tilt onto the robot, align it horizontally again, and press it down to snap it into place. You can tell the sweeping unit is securely attached by a slight clicking sound. The last step is connecting the power. The robot has the corresponding port on the top underneath the black rubber cover. The cable for the sweeping unit is located on the right side, secured with a click fastener. Press the small metal button on the plug to release it, then plug it into the robot. That's it. The sweeping unit is now fully assembled and ready for its first use. Okay, that's all from me. I hope this video helped you out. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give it a big thumbs up to support the video. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel for free and activate the bell so you don't miss any future videos. You can find the current prices of the robot in the video description below to support my channel. Thank you so much for your support, stay healthy, and take care. See you next time. Bye.